On the screen, we can see an example in which the MP shows us a graph with the quantity of activities performed by the user for each equipment, in a specific time period. Just as we illustrated the activities performed in this example, we can also illustrate other concepts such as labor costs, spare parts and consumable costs, total costs, failures quantity, outages quantity, outages duration, etc. When generating the graph, the users establish the concept they want to illustrate and indicate the time period they would like to cover in the calculation. In this example, we total by equipment, but we can also total by type of equipment, by any classification, by cost center, etc. Let's now take a look at the comparative graph of scheduled activities against the activities performed. In this graph, the MP shows a comparison between the number of scheduled activities and the number of activities performed per month. Activities scheduled for the month. Activities performed in this month. As we can see in the example, in August we have a difference in which the scheduled activities exceed the activities performed. By clicking here, we can consult the scheduled activities which were not performed. Below, you will see another type of graph in which the MP allows us to graph series. We click here to generate a series graph. The graphs may be made up of one or several series. We click here to add the first series. The MP assigns a default color for each series. However, the user can define the color. Select the concept of the series. In this example, we will graph maintenance costs. We will generate 3 series. First series, labor costs. Second series, spare parts and consumable costs. Third series, external services costs. We would also like that the program shows us exclusively preventive costs. The ordinary and extraordinary labor costs have been exclusively marked. Now, in this example we are only interested in the preventive maintenance costs, so we will only mark the corresponding maintenance job box. We already have the first series, labor costs of preventive maintenance. Let's add a second series in which we will indicate the spare parts and consumable costs. Now we only mark spare parts and consumables. As in the first series, we will only include the preventive maintenance costs. We already have the second series, spare parts and consumables costs of preventive maintenance. Let's add the last series in which we will show the costs for external services. we will only mark the external services. Our graph is made up of 3 series of information. The user can select among 4 types of graph for the presentation of the information. Let's select a pie graph. Let's select a time period. For example, the last 24 months. In the graph, we can see the distribution of costs for labor, spare parts and consumables and external services due to preventive maintenance in the last 24 months. Labor costs, spare parts and consumable costs, external services costs. From July 1, 2006 to June 3, 2008. In Settings Options, we can set up the graph so that the values are presented. We can also indicate that we would like to see the graph in 3D and even rotate the graph. Let's generate another graph. Let's set up the series which will form the new graph. In this case, we will graph the quantity of activities performed. A first series could cover all the maintenance types. A second series could cover, for example, preventive maintenance activities. A third series could cover corrective maintenance activities. Finally, a fourth series could cover predictive maintenance activities, support and improvement activities. These are the 4 series represented in graphs. Note that the MP automatically creates the series description. In this case, we will select the columns graph type. Let's change the period so that the last 2 months are included in the graph. The MP shows the number of activities performed for each type of maintenance in the last 2 months. On the bottom of the screen we can consult the symbols. When generating the graph, we can also establish filters to present, for example, the activities performed for any equipment classification, etc. Apart from the costs and activities performed graph which we have generated in this example, we can graph other concepts such as failures, outages and outages duration,